All right, let's talk about your narrative essay. Okay, narration. When you are telling a narrative, basically consider yourself sitting around the campfire telling a ghost story, or you are maybe narrating for the police what happened when you saw somebody have an accident. Basically, you are telling what happened. You are recounting a series of events. What you need to do for this first essay, among other things, is think about a short story from your life, preferably a short story that matters in some way, that has some sort of import to you, because it's going to be really important for you to have that reason for choosing that story in mind as you are working on it, and then make that very clear by the time you get to the end of it. You need to use first person if dialogue makes sense to the way that you need to tell this story. If it makes sense to you as the author and storyteller, then use it. Make sure that this is in MLA style. This particular slide says that we will workshop this in class, and that's not really the case because we don't have a face-to-face class, but you do have access to the Writing Center. So if you need help, that is one place to go. You can also email me. This is important. Here are 5 things that you have got to have in order to have a good narrative. You have to have a clear context. You have to have well-chosen, thoughtfully emphasized details, a logical, often chronological organization. You've got to have an appropriate and consistent point of view, which is usually first person, but not always. And you must have a good point, a meaningful point or purpose, or also known as the so what. When you write, you should have multiple audiences in your head. You imagine various people reading your essay, obviously. Your first and foremost audience is yourself. I'm an audience. Obviously, me as an audience is very different from you as an audience. For one thing, you know what you mean, and I don't necessarily. So keep in mind that whoever your audience is, they are going to bring very different life experiences, understanding, concepts, that kind of thing, to the reading of your essay. So keep in mind, you do have multiple audiences. You should think about the actual audience and use language, tone, and voice that's appropriate to that audience. In other words, construct your narrative for those people, speaking in the way that they expect and will understand the best. Your audience is always rooting for you, or at least almost always. I guess there are situations in which that's not the case, but generally speaking, your audience is on your side and they want you to succeed. So don't let them scare you. The so what, as I mentioned earlier. Why did you choose this story? Why are you using these particular details to tell it? And I will pause here and bring focus to the word detail. Do not include every single detail. If you include a detail, there needs to be a reason for that detail to be there. If you tell me that your car is silver and you parked it in the 3rd row of the parking lot, by golly, by the end of your essay, I should know why that matters. There should be a reason for that detail to be there. If I hit the end of your paper and I have no idea why I know that your car is silver and you parked it in the 3rd row of the parking lot, you have done a very bad job of telling your story. So if you want to know more about detail and how to provide detail poorly, please go and view the video about the F paper. There are very big why questions to answer in your writing, as well as smaller behind the scenes questions. The so what is your reason for telling this specific story this way for this assignment? Please note, this is the same slide that you saw a minute ago. Gosh, I wonder if that's important. Now, I mentioned in an earlier video that I had a brainstorming technique that's really especially good for this sort of work that you're doing on this particular essay. There are all kinds of different ways that we can brainstorm. You can do free writing, which is my personal favorite. I think free writing is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's, if you really are on the same page as I am with free writing and you think that's just the way to solve all the ills of the world, please make sure that you go and check out The Artist's Way, because that's a book that deals with free writing in a very creative and helpful way. You can also sketch out a map. If you are telling a story relating to, for instance, the time you got kidnapped as a small child, which I've had a student actually do that, he was the kidnappee, not the kidnapper, you might draw the map of where you were when you got grabbed. Or you might draw the map of the house that you stayed in while you were kidnapped. Sketch out a map to help you kind of remember some of the details that you might want to include. You can talk it out with a friend. When I was in graduate school, my husband was also in graduate school at the same time, and even though we studied very different things, we would frequently tell each other what we were working on, and we still do it now. Because it helps to say these things out loud. So if you get stuck, if you're not sure what you want to do, talk to your dog, talk to your roommate, your best friend, whatever. Find somebody and say these things out loud. You can also create a bubble map or an idea map. There are plenty of places online where you can do that and make it look really cool while you're doing it. You can make lists. I am a huge fan of listing. I love making lists. You can also do something called memory mining, which is a form of listing, and it's what we're not gonna do this together, obviously, but I'm gonna talk about this particular approach to brainstorming. You don't have to do this, but I just want to walk you through the process so that if you need it, you have it. Memory mining is just brainstorming to uncover memories of people, places, events, and experiences. To simplify, we'll break our memories down into categories. Try to list at least 3 memories for each category. Now, like I said, you don't have to turn this in, and that's really key to brainstorming and free writing and that sort of thing. It's not something that anybody else has to see. So that allows you to do what you want. It allows you to take risks that you might not otherwise take. So here's what's involved in it, in this particular approach to brainstorming. You want at least 3 memories for each category. So I would suggest that you use these categories because they are so broad. You may certainly come up with different categories if you like. The categories will be memories of people, places, events, and experiences, generally speaking. After we have finished with each of the categories, we will go on to a form of free writing in which you pick one of your favorite topics and list related memories as they come up for you. I have down here that we would do this for 15 minutes. And if we were face-to-face in class, that's exactly what we would do, is 15 minutes. So here is kind of a chart, I guess. You want to come up with 3 different people who impacted you, but not necessarily family or an obvious choice. Times and places. Think of time in terms of an era. Go past the obvious. Events, not necessarily a big event. The smaller, seemingly less significant, the better. Happy experiences, unhappy experiences. Think both large and small. Is there a story here that others can take a lesson from? And some accomplishments. So there's a chart that you can use. Now, here it is filled in from my own work, okay? If I were doing this assignment, and if we were doing the brainstorm together in class, these are the things that I would have come up with and we would talk about. I would maybe, if I was listing people, here are some people who impacted me, but they aren't family. This is a friend of mine from grad school. This is a student I had at Queens. And here's a mentor I had in grad school. Times and places. I rediscovered the cross-country trails in my hometown. My first spring season in North Carolina after living in Texas for a very long time. And then obviously I did this some time ago, but obviously for a lot of us, the pandemic is going to be kind of a big one. Different events, walking to my office after my first teaching experience. You better believe that's one of those events that really solidified in my head. Writing for fun. I'm working on something that involves characters named Doc and Charlie, and I love writing this stuff. Running with my dog. Me and Straxy run all the time. Well, she doesn't run as much as she used to. She's kind of got arthritis. Happy experiences. I might list the birth of my granddaughter, running with my dog, graduation. Unhappy experiences, coming home from the beach after last vacation. Now, obviously, it could have been unhappy because like somebody broke into the house or something, but it doesn't have to be that life altering. It can just be, man, I had a blast at the beach and I am really sad to come home. Another unhappy experience was not too awfully long ago, but fairly recently, Central Piedmont, where I also teach, had an issue with some ransomware, and boy, was that a mess. And another unhappy experience that I think pretty much everybody has is losing touch with friends from school. And then here are some accomplishments that might make really good fodder for me if I'm trying to write a narrative essay. First time I ran 8 miles, winning a scholarship at Texas Women's University, and having happy adult children. That's a big deal. So now what we want to do with the free writing, we want to start to pull in associated memories with just one of those topics. So if I was going to pick something, I might focus on, running with my dog. That covers 2 of these different areas. So I could maybe pull in even more memories to help me as I get started writing. Choose one of the topics you listed and write down every memory you have surrounding that topic. So for me, I might talk about the memory of the first time that I ran with Straxy. I might write about seeing a neighbor of mine running with his dog all the time. He used to run with his dog all the time. And I would see him out running with his dog and think, oh my gosh, I really want to have a dog to run with. I might write that down. I might write down, having to stop running so much with Straxy because of her issues with arthritis. I might write about when she got attacked by another dog while we were out on a run and how absolutely terrifying it was. In my narrative essay, I might want my so what to have to do with maybe how to go about making sure that me and the people that I care about, or in this instance, the dog that I care about, stay safe while we're running. I might want to, for my so what, I might want to talk about how important how important it is to remember that the fun stuff that we get to do isn't going to last forever, and we need to remember it and appreciate it while we have it. As you work with your details, you'll see that some are not as important as others. Some need to be much more fleshed out, and then all of a sudden you'll have a story. So that's a suggestion for brainstorming. This PDF or this PowerPoint is right here at the very bottom of our page. So if you want to make use of any of the stuff in that PowerPoint, please feel free to download it and do whatever you like with it. Good luck with this week. You will be hearing from me via email. Please email me if there's anything that you need to tell me, if you have questions, anything at all.